importance of good thinking, part 1. In Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 7 we read, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." Good thinkers are constantly in demand. Why? Because they solve problems, always have ideas that can build an organisation, and are hopeful for a better future. And good thinkers seldom find themselves under the control of bad thinkers. Adolf Hitler once boasted what luck for rulers that men do not think. Those who build the technique of good thinking can manage themselves, even when under an unfair ruler or in other challenging circumstances. In summary, good thinkers are successful. Dr. John Maxwell writes, "I've studied successful people for 40 years, and though the diversity you find among them is astounding, I've found that they're all alike in one way: how they think. That is the one thing that separates successful people from unsuccessful ones." And here's the good news. How successful people think can be learned. If you can change your thinking, you can change your life. The Bible puts it succinctly, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." That means you'll never climb higher in life until you're ready to change your thinking. But if you change the way you think, you can change your life. It's hard to exaggerate the value of changing your thinking. Good thinking can do several things for you, including generating opportunities, resolving problems, and producing revenue. It can lead you to an entirely new level, both professionally and personally. Paul writes, "Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise, then the God of peace will be with you." Philippians 4 verses 8 and 9. Do you want to change your life? The first step is to change how you think. That's the word for today on UCB.
This challenge, not bad. Right, it's always fun. We want to look at this. "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee." It's a full verse. So what times principle? Interpreting the verse in its correct Bible context, apply to new story from different industries, current affairs, we go with, right? interesting. Where is this placed in the Bible? Proverbs, Chronicles. He said Isaiah and Corinthians, right? Isaiah comes afterwards. And thus so did Corinthians. Does it? Yep. It's interesting. Conflict. Right. The Bible puts succinctly. You've chosen the Bible puts succinctly, yes or no. I need to get another Bible. Proverbs. So what's the structure of this? Right. Why do they use a colon? It's funny though, isn't it? As he thinketh in his heart, so is he. As a colon, eat and drink, saith he to the semicolon, but his heart is not with the period, full stop. Come on, buddy. Pause for thought. Hi. Hola. Oh yeah, I know all the time. God, good thinking, good thinking can do several things for you, including generating opportunities, resolving problems, and producing revenue. It can lead you to an entirely new level, both professionally and personally. Think about things that are excellent, worthy of praise. Then the God of peace will be with you. Remember what I said the other day. Now these are planned. These are printed quarterly. Adolf Hitler once boasted, "What luck for rulers that men do not think." Steeped in politics, this. You have to understand the source. The source is the Bible, but the source of who's delivering this. You know, all of this by donations. They also do advertising, right? So they are part of media. Bit of a conundrum, that. That's the way I look at it anyway. So what do we have here? So I've got an interpretation here. I did use ChatGPT. First and foremost, it depends on the structure. You've gone from Old Testament to New Testament, right? But generally speaking, there's no discussion here obviously the Bible and the Word of God's Word is food and nourishment, but also how is someone using this? But we're not interested in that at the moment. This one, let's have some fun here. Create a complete publication ready for set build on Proverbs 23:7, right? 23, chapter 20, what was it? Yeah, chapter 23, verse 7 of Proverbs. The verse and its timeless principle, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. They put a period there. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. Clean interpretation. Genre and setting. Wisdom literature using the table scene to teach discernment. A host's generous words mask a stingy, self-interested heart. The principle. Integrity of intent. Inner motives and inevitability leak into outcomes. Wise people test congruence between what's said and what's really willed. Why it matters today, public life is full of performative hospitality, fine words, stage empathy. The ancient teachings warns, don't swallow rhetoric, weigh incentives, patterns, and conditions. So we've got, let's look at it through a lens of current affairs. Obviously take with a pinch of salt. This week's Egypt's foreign minister blasted the description of Palestinian departure from Gaza as voluntary, called it nonsense, arguing that conditions like famine function as coercion, a live dispute over whether words match intent in wartime policy. The wider context includes street pressure in Israel for an end to the war and hostages for ceasefire trade-offs. US claims of active negotiations and rifts among allies about recognition and a diplomatic track, all saturated in rhetoric whose sincerity is contested. International humanitarian law likewise distinguishes between actual consent and coercive environments. Forcible transfer can be committed not only by physical expulsion, but by over coercive acts. Language becomes a utensil. It can be set at a table for safety or slide the plate away. The ethics underneath the headline. There's a reason war law is unusually picky about words and circumstances. The Fourth Geneva Convention forbids forcible transfer of civilians from occupied territory. The Rome Statute defines it to include removal by expulsion or other coercive acts. In jurisprudence, a coercive environment can convert consent into legal fiction. The question then is not merely what was said, but what conditions were deliberately maintained or tolerated around those words. And history's pattern. There's a checklist here. This is where they lead people down paths. And you'll die by your own words. Language audit, third-party verification, coercion, screen, reciprocity by design, and public dashboards. This very much aligns with everything else that people are trying to align with. I don't like this at all. It's that belief that if you follow this, free. Your thought. It's directive is a directive is a directive. And this is doing exactly the same thing. It's a directive. This kind of overlaps with what's going on in life at the moment, just with regards to work. That's why it's just extremely funny. Whoops. And now we've got things called prompts. It's literally a prompt. And it's gamification across platforms. Modern warfare. So here's a call to action. Diplomats stop optimizing sentences and start optimizing conditions. Media stop repeating political verbs without nouns and numbers. Citizens reward leaders who submit their rhetoric to verification in a world where language feeds or starves integrity of intent. It's not a virtue add-on, it's the only menu that keeps people alive. So the version of that is rote. Can you actually see that? I don't know if you can see that. There we go. There. Trouble in systems. That is the way I read the message. Right. Stop, drop. It's codified language. It's ridiculous. So what else we got? We can skip past we can skip past the meme. Bon appetit, top text, welcome, eat and drink, banquet, table grown with food, the front over. If the kitchen's closed, it's not a choice. Words set the table, conditions clear. That's the old text, okay. Yeah. Violence on every level. Right, followed by this in capital letters. Big friendly button labeled voluntary relocation. You don't understand the context. Well, I'm not showing the context, but it's a meme at the end of the day, and it's extremely polarizing. I requested this information, but it's extremely polarizing. Yeah. It's a big problem. It's only viewed from, even this, there's two sides to a story, right? Or two expressions. You can have many different memes for that, for the context, to apply in that context. But or from that context, many memes can be derived from that context, so that story above. It's ridiculous. It's about as a man thinketh, and I know there's a number of people on this chat that are thinking, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I have a Facebook page and I share everything. It's just open. But nobody asks any questions anyway, so I don't have to explain myself. But the system is not acting as it should be. That's one of the problems. And it's difficult to put into context this idea of literally being stalked off, seeing as well, being stalked offline, and people having the ability to adjust training models in such a way or enter systems to change outputs in a war of words, which is based on post-truth such as this is not someone using linguistics and subversive means to try and condition a means or condition someone's thought to make them or have people perceive them as something other than they are, which is rational. And ChatGPT. The next question I asked ChatGPT to supply me with in this big prompt up here was a YouTube link to a video for culturally relevant pop song from any era related to Proverbs 23:27. I didn't give it any additional context. I asked for it to interpret the verse in its correct biblical context and apply it to current affairs or politics from international news. Something critical, yet balanced, focused, factual, unwavering, and free from fallacy and contradiction. The YouTube output provided was Muse Uprising from 2009, a protest anthem about doublespeak and control, timely when language and conditions diverge. Yeah, it doesn't preach, it tests language against conditions, invites falsification and proposes verifiable steps. The ancient insight here isn't mysticism, it's practical. What we truly will is what we truly do. Let's watch some Muse, shall we? Muse boosh.
And use them for a discount on your next dining experience.
Alexa, stop. It's interesting. Falsification. A fat cat having a heart attack. Is that a risk? Number 11.
So the London Stock Exchange opens at 8 o'clock in the morning, and what you find is the first hour we might see quite a lot of volatility in that.
Something falling off. Panic. So looking at this still, a simple bloody sentence. Alexa, continue. So how do you interpret how is thinketh in his heart interpreted in the Bible? It's mentioned several times as how scripture is food, 107, which is meant when looking at a single verse. So as he thinketh in his heart, the interpretation of him in Hebrew Proverbs 23:7, did you say something like, for as he reckons or calculates in his soul, so he is. For as he reckons or calculates in his soul. Elaborate. Right. I just need an elaboration on that, because soul, there's many interpretations for soul and many forms of thinking. I'm not sure what church this person's coming from, or what school of thought they're coming from. Soul, as we understand, mind, spirit, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. Then you've got soul, as in depending on if you believe or you're going to believe in other forms of religion before the Bible. So you've got soul as in the sense of S-O-L or S-O-L-E, which is deriving from the sun god. But also there's this side of soul, which is where you might look at it from a different perspective. Semantics in it. You might look at it from a different perspective, where soul is actually the mixture of salt and water. So more of a biological state. So you might think soul, for as he reckons or calculates in his soul, in his light, in his lifetime, so he is, because you're only judged on your death, right? Or are we reducing the cycle? Are we saying if we're Buddhists or Reiki practitioners or whatever, it's only for the day, and every day you are reborn, and we forgive whatever happened the day before and move on. So, or is it best just not to dig into things? So the setting is a stingy man's banquet. He says, eat and drink, but he inwardly begrudges the cost. The proverb isn't about food per se, but about inner motive. Thinketh in his heart. What a person truly intends about inside, what defines who he is, not the polite words on his lips. So the principle, inner disposition, outward performance. If intent and words diverge, trust the intent. Okay, how to tell if food is literal, metaphorical. Immediate context is king. Proverbs 23, verse 1 to 3 and 23, 6 to 8. The table and delicacies are literal meals. Broader biblical context, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word. Prophets eat the scroll, internalizing God's word in Ezekiel 3. So ask, is the verse set? Discerning usage. Is the verse set in a narrative scene? Is the verse in poetry, prophecy, or prophecy? With knowing God's word, wisdom or judgment, often metaphorical. Always read a few verses before and after. Unit clarifies both food as a symbol. Symbol also be the teaching vehicle. Oof. Right, so reading Proverbs 23, verse 7, literally about nutrition would miss the point. Whose food is incidental. The real danger is hypocrisy. Reading prophetic, food equals word. Text only literally would miss their richness. Ezekiel isn't given the carbs, he's ingesting the message. So where do we get to? I asked you to elaborate. Here we go. What is soul? So we're going to Hebrew. Well, as he reckons in his nefesh, is it nefesh? So he is. So in Hebrew thought, nefesh or soul is not a ghost-like immaterial part of us. It literally means throat, breath, life, self, being. It often describes a whole living person, their desires, appetites, or inner life. Yeah, so Genesis 2:7, man became a living flesh, a living being. Leviticus 17:11, the flesh of the flesh is the blood. Psalms 42:1-2, my flesh pants for God, our whole being longs. So, as he thinketh in his heart, equating the flesh with heart in a seat of motive. So as he reckons his soul, the emphasis is not on a metaphysical part, but on an authentic intent of the person. Stingy host always food reference and the flesh should never represents a cost. His words and outward action do not align with his inward motive. Don't be deceived by the surface table, discern the inner appetite driving the host. Nope. So there's something here that's mentioned about bread. Is there not? Here. Let's elaborate. Right. Man does not live by bread alone. But you've got this whole thing of structure, symbolism, and what bread is when people take, what's it called? Communion. They drink the wine, they eat the bread, right? Even Jesus was giving people loaves of bread. So the bread is the body and the blood is the wine is the blood, right? So we've got bread, we've got heart, and we do have soul. So you've got body, you've got plasma, and you've got water and salt. Your body doesn't function on water and salt, right? Although that might be a reach, but we're going to have a look. Lechem primarily means Lechem. Primarily means bread or food made from grain, and that's in Hebrew. It also appears in compounds. Bethlehem, house of bread. Lahem panim, bread of presence. Bread of presence, show bread in a tabernacle or temple. This is not good. Panim. It's gamification. They call it gamification, but it's implication still. But everything is very much inverted. Is what I'm saying. Everything is, well, a few things, more than a few things have been inverted. Bread gained by deceit is sweet, but afterward his mouth will be full of gravel. Dishonest gain. Isabel. Her name's Isabel. And what the symbolic nature of bread? It's interesting. It's a loop, an embedded, very small loop. So we've gone bread being sustenance. The word is sustenance. Lechem, possibly on a metaphysics, or you'd say a metaphor or analogy. Metaphor is the body, and it says here, what do you say? Bread is a life-sustaining provision. Symbolism, it came to present God's provision of life. God came, he provided, God came, he provided structure, order. And he said everybody should work. I'm definitely at that, but this is going back to Genesis 3:19. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. Which takes on a different form when you go to the New Testament. God gives bread to strengthen man's heart. So by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. But this isn't a timeline, so this is Genesis. God was in charge of creating everything. Yeah. And then Adam and Eve were here to look after the Garden of Eden. We don't know what happened to them. Well, we know what happened to them afterwards, but you know what I mean? But it's this, by the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. So this appears later on when Jesus comes, and then he's come to rebuild the church. So he came, he showed people how, they ministered, and they built churches everywhere. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. They provided, oh well, not provided, but they ministered the word and they fed people. The human condition, right, when the world's all in disarray, out of order. God gives bread to strengthen man's heart. That's one to watch out for. Bread as a gift from God. Manna in the wilderness, bread from heaven. Exodus 16 verse 4. God sustains his people daily, teaching dependence. It's biblical, man. This road is the worst. It's biblical, but yeah, we can say it's biblical, but need out the system. Link to prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Not just carbs, but trust for provision. Bread that's fellowship and covenant. Sharing bread and sharing life, solidarity or peace. Bread is a righteous, unrighteous gain, symbol for livelihood, can be pure or corrupt. Prophets use food as a metaphor for God's word. Your words were found and I ate them. Thus, bread symbolizes wisdom, truth, and divine instruction. John 6, verse 35, I am the bread of life. Yeah, communion, sacramental symbol of Christ's body, covenant renewal, and ongoing fellowship. Alright, there's that bit. I think I'm happy with that. Cover everything. thought I'd read these two. Yeah, we're not going to read them. Anyway, I think we'll end that there. Pick up some more tomorrow. Or pick up more tomorrow. What food? No. We'll pick up what we left off tomorrow. Possibly. Depending what the word is. Depending what the word is. Alright, good night, bye. It's the same all the time, by the way.